Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are back with another installment of Ask a Maker Educator. We're here to support educators with their questions and help them further their ideas. I'm Katie, and I'm the program manager for MakerCore here at MakerEd, and I'm super excited to be on my first Ask a Maker Educator live and chat with you all for the next half an hour. Today we have Donna, who is just fantastic. She is from Recreate in Roseville. She's the founder and executive director of Recreate, which is an organization committed to reducing waste in the community and inspiring others to do the same through art, education, and imagination, or what I would like to call making. As we go, as always, please feel free to submit your questions or comments in that box on YouTube, and we will answer them as they come in. So we're going to talk with Donna quite a bit today about what creative reuse is, where she sources materials, making mobile, and lots of other stuff. And so for now, I'm going to hand it over to Donna so that you can properly introduce yourself.
Perfect. Thank you. So like she said, I'm Donna, and I am from Recreate. We are a creative reuse center. And what that means is that we work with businesses in our region to divert what we call good trash, clean, usable waste, things that they would have thrown away that we think has value for art and making and learning. And we have, over the last few years, really meshed that reuse with some high technology tools to get the biggest bang for our buck from the reused materials. And that's how we really started getting into maker education in a big way.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what your relationship with and Recreate's relationship with education looks like now? What are some of the initiatives you have going, not only to kind of divert this potential trash from landfills, but also to engage young people in creativity and in learning and all of that?
Absolutely. And so we recently launched a vehicle called our Genius Mobile. And it is basically a vehicle that allows us to create a pop-up maker classroom at a school. And so educators or schools will invite us into their classrooms, and we will do lessons in the areas of STEAM, so science, tech, engineering, art, and math. And we, for example, have a program that is on renewable energy. In that program, we teach kids about what they would learn in a book, but we do it in a way that they're actually making a prototype of a water mill, of a solar powered phone charger. And our other one is, I'm drawing a blank, the phone charger, the water phone, solar phone, oh, and a wind turbine. And so they would actually make, in groups, they would make one of those three hands-on program, of course, and they have some guidance, but they mostly kind of get some materials handed to them, and we say, okay, these are the ways that you can make this work. You go at it and try to figure out how to make it the most efficient. And so that's what they're doing. And then we go back and they get to, as classes, present that. So that's one of the programs that we have. We're always very careful not to just say you have to go from point A to point B to point C. We kind of give them a launch pad, give them a few skills, and kind of push them off the diving board and let them figure out how to get through the maze of making it work, because we really strongly believe that it's in those moments of failure where they start collaborating and persevering, and that's when the magic of making is happening.
Absolutely. I think that's such a wonderful point of giving them tools and a little bit of, know-how so that they're not totally on their own, but then letting them get up against those obstacles. How do you see them kind of start to approach some of that frustration, or some of this isn't working, or it's broken, or what tends to happen with the young people when those moments come?
So it seems like when we're first dealing with a group of students, or if it's their first time working with us, they're very quick to come up to us. And so we've now started to start the class setting some really good expectations. And I know that I heard this somewhere along the way through you all, but the line of ask three before you ask me. So ask your peers, collaborate with your peers. And if you guys can't figure it out, then we'll jump in and try to help you get back on track. But really trying to do our very best to keep our hands out of it and let their learning be pure from their curiosity.
That's so wonderful. How do you tend to hook up with the schools, with either the school at large or the individual teacher? Do you reach out to them? Have you created the presence where they're now seeking you out? What does that kind of path look like for you?
So we've been in schools in our region since 2008 with our More Art, Less Waste program. So there are a lot of schools where we've already been in their classrooms, and we're reaching out to them saying, in addition to that program, we have this, maker education program. With the new changes in the science standards, it's been really easy to tell them, we know you're stressed in this area, and we've got this, we can bring it in and show them. So it might be a simple machines class, it might be renewable energy. We have a makey music class and a makey arcade class. We have a robot petting zoo. So really depending on what they're looking for, we can kind of put that in and figure it out.
That's so great. What else do you have going on in terms of education?
So we do our in-class programs. We also do after-school programs, both in junior high level and in elementary level. It could be a circuits and robotics class. It could be a stop-motion animation class, which is one of my favorite ones to do. But probably, my two favorite classes that we recently did were long-term programs that we had done with a grant that we had with Cognizant. One was an Inventing for Good class. So their mission was to invent for social good, whether they were developing something new to help somebody who was chronically ill, or a senior, or somebody that was handicapped in some way. That was their goal, to kind of help somebody do better in their life by using their imagination and their ideas. And so that was one that did really great, that we loved. And then we also do a program that we've done a few times called Maker Carnival, where we go in and we teach them a few skills with a few different things. And then we say, okay, we're going to turn a carnival upside down on its head and reinvent it. And in this last session, we had teams 3D printing little cases that went over Sphero so that they could do Sphero soccer. We had a Sphero maze. We had a group that created a remake of a vintage Zoltar, the fortune teller, that was kind of this animatronic thing that they built that had sensors, and it was just amazing. Again, reuse materials, nothing really expensive, cardboard, lots of cardboard in that class. And it was just a great experience. Those kids were so excited. And in all of our after school programs, we always try to have a showcase at the end, so that we're not telling their parents how great they did. They get to show it to their parents themselves.
That's great. What have you seen the parent reaction or kind of impression be from those showcases?
So I think that the parents are always surprised at what their kids could do when we explain that really we're not taking them through all of the steps. We take them to a certain point, and this is where they went from there. I think that the parents are always excited to see how fired up their kids are or sparked by it. And I think that almost overpowers the product for the parents. They're proud of what their child made, but it's that feeling that their kids are getting that is really the most powerful thing.
That's so cool. I think that makes such a good connection to what we say so often here, that making and maker spaces is so less about the materials that you're using and the technology that you have, and more about that philosophy that you're approaching it with, and developing those skills in young people, like creativity and confidence in their ideas and being able to share them with people. And so the fact that the parents' takeaway is less about the actual product and more about kind of the impression it leaves on their kids is just wonderful to hear, because it's kind of affirming what it is we talk about so much, that you can have a maker space with entirely reused materials. You can have a 3D printer if you have one, but that really ultimately what comes out is less about the product and more about kind of that beginning of a transformation in the young people.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, some of the most difficult kids that we have had it's not about the 3D printer. I mean, sometimes, you know, we joke about it here all the time that a toilet paper tube can change the world, but I really feel like there's some honesty in that, because it really doesn't matter what we give them. If it's something that sparks that child's imagination, we are changing their world. And if I feel like if I change their world, I am changing the world. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So we love that. And we have no problem going in with, you know, we have this More Art Less Waste program, and it is all reused materials. It's a toilet paper tube and corks and just, you know, nothing fancy at all. And these kids will tell us year after year, if they see us, you know, a lot of times they'll see us 2 years in a row. And so if they see us in 3rd grade, they'll tell us in 4th grade, oh, last year I made a whatever, robot, animal, dog, whatever it was that they made. They remember it. They remember why we're there. And I think that that's a powerful thing that I really hope educators realize, that you don't have to spend a ton of money to get out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also a testament to your approach with doing this, that yes, the toilet paper tube sparks their creativity, but the facilitation behind it, and the way it also shows them that you trust them and you trust their ideas, and that you believe in what it is, that the design that they see for that time. I think that there's a lot to be said, particularly with some of the students that are harder to reach in traditional education manners, that what you think and what you believe and what you want to do is valid, and we're going to support you in figuring out how to turn that cardboard tube into, you know, a moving robot, or into a snake, or whatever it might be. I think that there's a lot to be said in all of that approach that you just described, and really giving the autonomy over to the young person that engages particularly students who are disillusioned with education otherwise. So it's exciting to hear that it's happening up in Rosewood in the ways that it is. Roseville.
Yes, sorry. That's okay. I think that really the magic with it, with whether it's materials that you buy at the store or reuse materials, for us, the magic has been in the open-endedness, for sure. So when we give what we call a kit of materials, it is just a jumble of stuff that we think we could make a robot out of, but we see it made in 100 different ways with the same materials. And I think that's what kids get excited about, because most of the time kids don't get that. If they're doing an art project, the art program is, today we're going to, you know, draw a horse out of pastels, and everybody draws a horse out of pastels. We don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's fun. And I think that I hope others see the value in that as well, because we for sure see the magic there.
Yeah. When you do have them kind of build either not necessarily pre-designed things, but kind of guided projects, do you give examples of what they look like in the end? Or do you find that examples then have the child building something that looks like the examples? How do you deal with kind of introducing a theme or a project?
So we do a presentation that precedes most of our, you know, all of our programs. And so we will flash a picture up on the screen for maybe 30 seconds of what's coming up next, but we are quick to pull that down. And in fact, it's funny because sometimes we'll be asked, can you put that picture back up? And we're like, nope, we're not doing that. This is about what's in your brain, because your ideas, I always tell them, your brain is new and fresh and mine is not. So you can use what's in your brain.
That's too funny. So I want to switch gears a little bit. We were just talking about this actually before we went live. Creative reuse is such a wonderful way to get materials for maker spaces and for mobile making spaces and all sorts of things. And a lot of people are kind of new to the idea of diverting waste, and it might seem kind of too big for them to do or to find that entry point. And I'm wondering if you could share with the folks who are tuning in some places that you can source these types of materials, these types of things that can be then used directly in a maker space.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I would say is, if you're crunched on time, and most nonprofits and teachers are, look to see if there's a creative reuse center in your region. Most of them are nonprofits and would love your support, and they would love to help you. We try really hard to take care of teachers or other nonprofits that come our way, because we want to make sure that they succeed also, and we want to be a partner with them. Lancaster Creative Reuse on their website has a list of every creative reuse center there is, like, I think in the world that they know of. And there are so many that already exist. But if there isn't one in your neighborhood, some of the places where we get our best stuff are architecture firms. They throw away fabric samples and little pieces of wood from architecture samples. It's kind of like Christmas every time I go there. They have great stuff, tiles, paint swatches, you name it, they've got it. So that's one place that we get great supplies. I also think if there's any sewing or manufacturing in your area, a lot of times they have really interesting cast-offs. And there's one that here that they end up with a lot of end pieces of material, but they also end up with pieces of foam that's left over from the projects that they do. And so just sourcing out and asking them, a lot of them are throwing away a lot of material because it's not efficient for them to keep it. They don't need it for what they're doing, but they feel bad about it also. Like, they realize that they're generating a lot of waste. In California, the average business generates 18 pounds per employee per day of waste. That's huge.
Oh my gosh.
So when you think of that, I mean, it just makes you realize there's mountains of stuff out there to collect. Let me see here. Just even putting out the word to people, if somebody knits, they have leftover yarn. If somebody draws, they have old canvases they don't want anymore. So even just putting the call out on Craigslist or something like that, if you have a Facebook page, a lot of times people will ask us, do you have old, something random. Somebody was looking for ice cream containers the other day. Do you have old ice cream containers? I said, I don't, but I can put a call out for it. And pretty much every time I do, somebody pops up and says, yeah, we can get you that. And so it's really not hard to get materials.
That's incredible.
It's just asking.
What is one or two of your favorite materials besides the toilet paper tubes, of course, that are like very rarely life-changing? What are some other favorite materials of yours?
So there's a company, and they're actually not local. They're down in LA, and they create, whenever you get packaging and it's got kind of like that silvery reflective stuff. Yeah. So they're the people behind that. And they have all of that on kind of this film mylar-y stuff. And their end rolls, they can't use them because when they're doing production, it's much larger. So their end rolls get pulled off, and if they don't donate them, they toss them. Wow. And so that is one of my very most favorite things. And I'm trying to think if I do have some in here, but let me see if I can tilt it up to the lights. Can you see the lights up there? It's wrapped around the lights up there as some clear kind, but they also have some silvery stuff, and it's just fun to make with. It's interesting for science. You can do a lot of fun light play stuff with it. So that's one of my favorites. Gosh, what else? I think fabric sample books are really fun too, because with, like a Cricut or something like that, some type of a cutter, you can put that fabric through and you can make signs, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. And then I would say my third favorite piece are remnant pieces of acrylic, because we have a laser cutter. So that makes a really amazing thing really quickly.
Cool. I'm also wondering, so once these projects are made either at your site or in the schools, is there a process for either reusing the reuse or ultimate kind of disposal of it? Or what does it look like once these materials have been used and the projects have ended? What happens? Do the kids take them home? Are they kind of forever projects, or is there a way to then reuse again the materials?
So the kids do take them home. We do talk with them in our programs about, don't forget what this is. If this is, what part of this is reusable or recyclable, and how can you put it into whatever bins you have to make sure that it doesn't end up in the landfill, because that's completely not what we're about. We're about keeping it out of the landfill. So we show them, if you made something that's wrapped in fabric and has cardboard, and then you have some other things that you can break off, snap those off and keep, put those in one bin, and really sort out what those materials are so that we can do the best. But we do a little bit have to let it go, because what we do have to remind ourselves is that stuff was going into the landfill already.
Absolutely.
We're just grabbing it one time before it, ends up going there eventually. But I am happy to tell you that we are so often told by kids, I still have that purse that I designed, or they tell us whatever it is that they did the year before, it's still with them. And so I think that that's pretty cool.
That's super cool. It seems like it could also be a cool thing that a teacher could introduce, of like, take a picture. If you do dismantle your project, take a picture of each of the pieces going in to the recycle bin or wherever it goes, and bring it back to school. And then it seems like a way to engage.
Great idea. I have to write that one down.
Furthering it, right? Either some sort of reward for the one who is able to do the most assembly or something like that, so that there's kind of the full circle of the reason that we're building with these materials in the first place, is that this is also about sustainability and about our earth and all of the things that of course you and Recreate are so passionate about anyway.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I actually think I'm going to add that to our email to the teachers, because that's a really great way to stretch the lesson also.
Yeah, cool. So we have about 8-ish more minutes. I'm wondering if you have you've shared really wonderful kind of resources in the communities to source materials, other resources you'd like to share with our community in terms of professional development, or websites or books, or things that you use or really find inspires and motivates and furthers your own practice as a maker educator.
So the two books that are my favorites at the moment are The 180 Days of Making by Michelle Carlson. Mm-hmm. I think she's a rock star. I love her. And I just think that that is a great book for anybody who's just at that beginning point, and how exactly can I implement this? And it really, for when you're starting a program, it's really good to reinforce why you don't jump in too early, and why, really kind of sitting and letting those kids get to that point where they're making the choice, why that's so important. And then the other book that I recently picked up that I love is Colleen and Aaron Graves' big book of maker projects, I think is the name. Yeah. Maker Space Projects. That one is great as well. My social media wise, my very favorite place, which I would have never said this 2 years ago, but I am a huge fan of Twitter, because there are so many teachers out there that it's their way that they can quickly put information out. A big blog post, even for me, I don't have the time, but right. I can shoot a picture of a really great project. And if somebody wants to ask me a question about it further, then it's easy for me to answer them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love Twitter, and there are so many amazing makers on Twitter that I am inspired every day on that. And Instagram, same thing, that the visuals there are amazing. So.
And where can folks find you on Twitter and Instagram and all of that? Where can they find you? Where can they find Recreate?
Yeah, so we are Recreate.org, all one word, on both Instagram and Twitter. We are on Facebook as well. We're Recreate.org on Facebook, and we are active across all three of those places.
Awesome, and we'll put all that information in the comment of this video once it gets recorded. But I wanted you to be able to share it verbally with folks too. Do you have any hashtags that you follow or that you recommend people follow for inspiration or for kind of sharing their practice?
So we always use the hashtag for Maker Ed. for anything that we do in the making arena that's tied to school or education, and whether that's formal or informal. That I feel like those kids in the after school programs are learning just as much as the kids in the classes. It's just maybe the format's a little bit different. And then for us, if it's something with our Genius Mobile, we do also hashtag mobile making or mobile making. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us and for taking the time out to share your expertise with the community. I think, as I mentioned, those of us who are in the creative reuse realm take advantage of the fact that not everyone really understands or is taking as good advantage of it as they can. So hopefully this was useful to folks out there who are looking to kind of diversify what it is they're doing or where the materials are coming from, or bringing in that sustainability and environmental focus into the making work they're doing. So thank you, Donna. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I want to thank you, because I think that Maker Ed is such a great resource for all of us. And I really appreciate you, one, giving us the ability to hopefully give somebody some tips that may help them. But I just find you all a great resource, and you are amazing. So thank you for all you do there. And thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. We are only as strong as our partners. I say this all the time. I feel so lucky to work here because we get this wonderful view into really, really amazing work that's happening across the country in so many different settings, with high tech, with low tech, with no tech. And it's one of the few spaces where kind of we get to see a little bit of all of that. And before we go, I want to make a little plug for next week. Next week, same place, same time, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We have Kenan Scott from West Oak Middle School who will be joining us. So join in if you can. And as always, these will all be recorded and posted on our site for future viewing. All right, take care. Thanks so much, Donna.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.